In the tunnel.
In the tunnel.
In the tunnel. You're listening to In the Tunnel.
Hello and welcome to In the Tunnel, episode number 87. Yeah, so we've
Take two
been
on that.
we've been gone a little bit, but we're jumping into it and hopefully getting back into the groove of things.
We say that every time, and eventually one day it'll actually be true. Amazingly enough, when I was in North Carolina, we pulled that off a lot better than we have in the past 2 years.
Yeah, I know, right?
What
Yeah,
can you do?
so anyway, the NHL's awaiting. So we're looking at Canada. Yeah, Toronto's best team, Ottawa and Vancouver are trying to race for the worst team in Canada. Aside from
Yeah.
that,
I
uh,
mean, I don't know if Ottawa's racing. I mean, considering what their offseason was and how they tried to build up a young core, I don't know that racing towards the bottom is kind of the plan. They kind of just, all their moves kind of like stunk.
I mean, also Vancouver is behind in games by quite a bit due to their COVID outbreak.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not going to have a chance at this point to be able to get all those games back. I mean, they have at least what 10 games.
Hmm.
They're not going.
Yeah,
They should
but
probably
like,
just. I mean, Vancouver should just fold for the
I mean,
season.
they could make it to like 50 points or whatever.
But they need. This is as of last night. They would need what 15 points to jump Montreal.
Yeah, but yeah, not happening. I understand. I'm just saying, like, they could be a little bit more competitive if they weren't down the 7 games that they are.
They could have been more competitive if it was like a game of who can't catch COVID. Let me try that.
Uh,
Instead, they played the game of who can catch COVID, and everybody won.
anyway, let's look at the East because both our favorite teams are there. Yeah, Washington and Pittsburgh at the top of the ladder, along with New York.
Hmm.
And Buffalo is running with Jersey down the ladder.
So, what's your assessment on the Devils this season? Because, like,
So,
is this actually a step forward, or is this like one of your? Because I see the Devils kind of like every 3 years they kind of like recycle. This is one of the years where you guys get rid of
we got rid of Palmieri and Zajac.
yep, and then you get rid of like your leadership group, and you're like, we're gonna start over. And so the next 2 years, you're gonna kind of like fight for this, growth, and then you'll give up and kind of do it all over again under a different regime.
I mean, like the way I also see it is this year, like we had our first that COVID outbreak that took out Nico for like I don't know how long, and we were doing pretty well before that, so that kind of like sunk the sails. But then recently, something else has happened where we're on a 9 game losing streak. Conveniently, we've only lost to Pittsburgh and the Rangers in those 9 games.
But
So like
you're
I
1-1-6 against the Penguins this year.
yeah, and but what I feel like is at the beginning of the season, again, I never expected to make the playoffs. Let's be honest, right here. But we were doing good and having good showings against teams, but recently
Hmm.
we're kind of like regressing to a large degree. So,
Right, and it's not like Palmieri and Zajac are the only reasons why that
oh
happened.
no, not at all. Definitely not at all. Um, it's just kind of hard to see what the plan is kind of going forward, you know?
Hmm. No, I would
Uh,
agree with that. I would say, and that's why I ask is as a fan, what exactly your reaction is,
Like,
because
I mean, I'll still watch the games because even being bottom of the barrel team, Hughes is still playing really well. We still like as Nico's getting back, we like to see him and he's doing okay. It's just I don't see how the pieces we have can complement those players, right? And going into the off season, that's what I feel like the team should be looking for, along with a number one D man. But yeah, that's another story.
well, do you think that down the road, Nico Heischer and Jack Hughes are another one of these, like the Palmieri and Zajac that get dealt, or do you
Well,
actually think
so
that
I
they're
think
gonna be able to build something?
I think you don't include Zajac in this because Zajac was with the team for a long time.
Right, but do
But
you think that Zajac is going to be,
I
or
think
Hughes, or one of these guys is going to be around long enough to be Zajac?
so.
Because yeah,
I think
Zajac was there what 9 years, but
yeah, 9 years. But I think if since you've given the C to Nico, you have to commit to him in the longer term. It's not going to be like a 4 or 5 year kind of just dump. Um, but that's my opinion, right? Just because you've given this C to Heisher, it's kind of like you're giving it a semi long term commitment. That doesn't say much about Hughes, but it's literally been what, one season.
it's weird because New Jersey obviously doesn't attract the biggest free agents. Normally,
Yeah,
their big acquisitions are through trades, despite the media market that they're in.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to build because you guys have had plenty of top picks.
Yeah. But like again, I don't think we've necessarily used our top picks effectively. Right?
I would agree with that.
We had like if you look at our top picks, right, aside from our number one overalls in Heischer and Hughes, right, we picked Zaka at like 5 or 6. Uh, we had that in that recent history. We had that one year at Kovalchuk. We picked like Gianta at 30 because of that Kovalchuk deal, and we got our pick back at like 31 or whatever.
Wait, Brian Gianta?
No. Oh, I'm sorry, not Gianta. We picked. Oh, it was like one of the really great NHLers' son who was in the draft. That didn't really work out. Um,
I mean, the NHL is that league where, offspring of a great turns into. I mean, the Kachucks.
yeah, but at the same
So
time, it's still a risk. Like, and also like our mid round, kind of mid first round picks also haven't kind of given us much. Like, is it sad to say that I think our best non first round pick was Kerfoot because we kind of just like gave him up for Butcher anyway? um,
I don't know that. Yeah,
because
it's not the best luck.
Colorado drafted Butcher. I'm pretty sure we drafted Kerfoot, and then they
I
just
thought Butch they just swap picks. I thought
no
Butch was
no.
a
What happened is
college free agent.
both of them didn't sign with their draft team, so they waited the years, and then
Yeah,
they just signed with
and
the other
then
team.
Butcher was a free agent.
Yeah, because Kerfoot was the same way.
Yeah, it's an interesting swap, but
Yeah, so like I think again, I think the team has to commit to building around Hischier at least in the semi long term.
mhm.
We'll see what that means, but I'm not really like I think that we don't have the pieces around them yet, and that's going to be really hard because we don't necessarily make the biggest free agent signing.
It's weird because Shara was one of the guys who, uh,
Will
his
Bennett.
kind of, well, I was gonna say his claim to fame was he'd get the big signings, or at least the big names on like shorter deals.
I mean, he
Then he was
technically
gone.
like. Do you really think we'd have had Marcus Johansson if that wasn't the case? Do you think we could have like?
You guys kind of ruined him too. Like
Yeah, no, no.
he kind of went on to become a nobody right after that.
I know. I'm just saying
He
though, like
he
he
got to
was.
the Devils as the guy with promise. From the Capitals, like could
Mm,
he become the next big, top 6 guy? and you guys kind of like just ran him into the
Well,
ground
no,
and
I
traded
don't
him to
think
scraps for.
I don't think it was like we ruined him immediately because I think he did have
Like he was there for 2.5 years,
yeah,
right?
yeah, but I think his first year was great or pretty good, not great, but it just went downhill from there.
Yeah, it must have been that almighty New York nightlife that nobody in New Jersey talks about.
Um, aside from that though, like that, like what we're looking for in the team is a lot, but I don't see the pieces to get there yet, and that's a problem because it's been this way for like 3 years. It's like
Yeah, eventually your guys are going to start running.
yeah.
I mean, luckily Heischer and Hughes are still probably early 20s at best, but
So let's get out of the dumpster fire that is the Devils, and let's
okay.
talk about the Penguins because they're actually doing okay, huh?
I mean, for a good solid 3 hours, they were in first place. But at the same time, I don't think if you asked anybody here, they want to play Boston. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of would rather just. I mean, not that the Islanders have given us any easier of a draw in the past 5 years, but
No, but
you'd rather take the Islanders than Boston.
I think there's a pretty big disparity in the East between the top four and the bottom four. Because even though the Rangers' record is good, I just don't think they hold a candle
I
to the
I
top four team.
I would take the Rangers if they made it in a heartbeat for sure. I think that they'd probably be out in 5 games or less.
Mhm.
I don't think that they have the experience. I think they have, like they have a couple players that like live up to it, like Zabinajad. But
Yeah. Yeah.
outside of him, it's kind of like if there was only Crosby and nobody else, it would probably be easy to stop Crosby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Anyway, on to the
Lafreniere is
Central, let's say.
also Lafreniere is. I mean, I haven't watched hockey to the degree that I could be, but he doesn't seem to be this. There's a lot of hype for him that I'd say has not been lived up to. He's
Yeah.
not exactly capturing the media.
I mean, to be fair, I think like Hughes has captured more media than Lafreniere.
Yeah, but Lafreniere is supposed to be the next big thing, right?
I I don't think so. When I looked at him as a player, he was like a solid player. I don't think he's like that kind of like breakout kind of guy, but I think he's the more like solid center you could put like a scoring winger on.
Mhm.
But
He's
I
got
still think he's a really good player.
he's got 16 points on the year
Hmm.
in 48 games.
Yep.
Not great, but yeah. Moving on.
Yeah. Anyway, let's look at the Central Division. Carolina's at the top. Kind of surprised. Uh,
I mean, yeah. I
Columbus and
I
Detroit are
knew.
pulling up the rear.
Mhm.
I do want to say this though. Yesterday, I think it was through two periods, Detroit had 41 shots against, and the guy let in 0 goals.
Be the franchise cornerstone for them.
And they had
Yes, is it Mrazek? Or no,
no,
Mrazek's with Carolina.
yeah, yeah. I don't know who their goalie is, but then Detroit
I don't
had
think
6
anybody does.
shots and they scored once in two periods, so it was like going around.
Saw a clip of what was it? The scoreboard of was it the Stars played someone, they were out shooting someone 30-3
Hmm.
in the first period, or not first or second period, but it may have been Detroit. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Aside from that, like Florida and Tampa Bay are pretty round out the top three. I don't know. I kind of thought Tampa would be having a little bit of an easier time in this.
I was gonna say something along that. I think Tampa probably in prime position to succeed because people look at them at number 3 there and they probably think, well, they're regressing. And
But I don't think
when the
so.
playoffs start, that's
Hmm.
going to be, I think that might still be theirs to lose.
Yeah.
But, it's much like a lot of people will say that Toronto is like a complete force, despite the fact that Toronto has had maybe lesser competition this year. So
Yep. I mean, aside from that, like, I think there's a pretty big disparity between the top three in Nashville and Dallas.
if Nashville gets in the playoffs,
Nashville.
or
I'm saying like between the top three and those two, like trying to get in the playoffs in Nashville and Dallas. I really don't think that they make it to the next round, no matter what.
I mean, I look. We all knew that Columbus's window was closing, but
Yeah.
boy, did it hit them hard.
Yeah,
this year.
very.
So hard that they got Max Domi and then healthy scratched them like 5 straight games.
So hard that they're worse than Detroit, dude.
And that's saying something.
Yeah. All right, on to the West. So the West had the first two teams to clinch playoff spots. Vegas did clinch the first playoff spot in the NHL, followed by Colorado shortly after, I'm pretty sure.
Your guess is as good as mine on that one. I'm not staying up watching those games.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for us. Um, I think Vegas has been kind of surprising with like how good they've been, but then again, like I think the bottom of this division or
It's
the
bad.
bottom five teams, because it's really just those three teams in the world. Like St. Louis and down, I don't even know why.
I mean, like, we all know that Anaheim, San Jose, and the Kings are deep into rebuilding.
Yeah, but like, I kind of didn't expect, like, I guess, like, Arizona and St. Louis are doing okay, but at the same time, I did expect
Arizona kind of hovers around okay every year.
I kind of expected one of them to also show up and be above like 50 some points by this time.
Mhm.
But like these three teams in Vegas, Colorado, and Minnesota are just taking it over. I'm
Uh,
kind of surprised.
by the way, do you look at these standings like at first glimpse and realize like, oh, there isn't 3 Eastern Conference divisions? Because like I see Toronto on top. I see obviously what is the Metro, but
Yeah.
is really the East. And I see Carolina, Florida, Tampa Bay. I'm like, there's 3 East divisions. Where does the West come into play?
In its own. Well, the other one, the Carolina one, has Central, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I
But
mean Chicago,
at the
but
same time,
Chicago and Dallas. But at the same time, every other team is still East.
yeah, it's like you have to go past Nashville to find Dallas, Chicago, and Detroit, Columbus. I maybe you could argue.
I mean, and I do have to ask. Maybe you know this because I don't. What exactly is the plan once they hit the conference finals here for this league?
I don't
Because
know.
once Canada's involved,
Well, so no, Canada relaxed its entry rule so that like if a team's coming in, they only have to wait 7 days.
okay,
Or no,
so
it was a
let's say
player. So the trades can actually happen between Canada and the teams now because it's a 7 day waiting period or whatever. So I have
okay,
no idea.
so what we're gonna see is we're gonna see the Eastern Conference final take like 2 weeks, and then the 3 weeks for the Western Conference final because
But
Canada.
I really think they should just bubble it, dude.
I think they should definitely bubble. Like, not to say this against the Canada teams, but that's the one area that you have to worry about is their teams. Because if it's like games 1 and 2 are in the U.S., then you switch to Canada for 3 and 4. So instead of having the 2 days off, you then have 7 days off, and then say you need a game 5 or a 6 or a 7, you have to then add another week to this series.
Yeah. So no, but like I think the series is as a whole instead of dealing with like traveling, because if you have like a Carolina and Vegas series, that's still a ton of traveling.
Yeah, it is, but that's just how stupid our country is. We don't do that high security thing.
Anyway,
We don't protect people like that.
anyway, let's uh let's look at some of the better players, I guess. Or I guess front runners for some of the trophies, right? With points, we have McDavid at the top, followed by Draisaitl. Nobody's surprised. With goals, we have Matthews at the top. I was kind of surprised, but then again, they're at the top of their division, followed by Mikko Rantanen. Didn't expect that. In wins, Vasilevsky has 27, but their team is a third in their division. Followed by
Not a great look.
who does Grubauer even play for? Whatever.
Didn't know that?
Huh?
He plays for Colorado.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, my mic must have cut out there, but I said it twice.
And then with shutouts, we have Fleury and Varlamov and Grubauer at 5.
I mean, I don't know if Grubauer's actually going to get it, because Grubauer, shutout wise, very good, but how much of the team in front of him is doing the heavy lifting?
Yeah, but he's 25 wins. Like, if you look at it, Fleury only has 21, but he has 5 shutouts.
True. You have a good point. You know, when it comes to goaltending statistics, I'm probably going to have to back out anyway.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch a game and tell you the difference between a 938 save percentage guy and an 898 save percentage guy.
I think like you start to see the difference when you have. I think you can start to see this difference when you have like a .94 save percentage guy against a .89 or .90.
Yeah, except for if Carey Price plays the Bruins, I feel like like that you kind of understand that the Bruins are going to bring something different, and maybe Carey Price is going to have an off day. Maybe he's not.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we're just looking at what some of the awards would be good for.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I think that the Hart Trophy is going to McDavid. I think
yeah. That I don't think there's another.
I think Matthews at the beginning of the year probably had a good run for it. He started hot, but he's more just a pure goal scorer.
I mean, he's gonna get the Rocket, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Ovechkin hasn't really had foot on the pedal for that this year.
Yeah. But as far as like goaltending is concerned, I think Vasilevsky right now is the favorite. I think wins matter more than shutouts.
I'm. It's hard because it also comes down to team success. And if you look at Tampa Bay being third in their division, they might hand it to. It's not going to be. Look, Fleury's never been
Yeah.
finalist for the Vezina to
Yeah.
that high. So and it's probably not going to be Grubauer because Grubauer probably isn't the household name that they can market.
Yeah, but I think that like Tampa has 63 points right now, so being third is pretty close. Like they're 1 point from second, so the team could probably make it to second place, and then I think you'll be hard to argue against Vasilevsky.
I think Vasilevsky also. It's weird because I feel like the NHL does try to kind of throw a variety into their awards in that they don't tend to give the same guy the trophy every year.
Yeah.
And Vasilevsky won it last year, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So that'll be interesting because they normally like to throw a wrench in it with that. Like they don't give Coach of the Year to the same guy every year. They don't give the Hart Trophy hasn't gone to back to back.
The only one that's gone to back-to-backs regularly is the Rocket, right?
Yeah, Ovechkin.
Yeah.
Obviously not the Lady Bing. The Lady Bing changes every year because the criteria for who that guy is changes every year.
Yep.
It's like, improving yourself from not being a dirtbag to being appropriately, adequate. So you can't really win that twice. But
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think as far as like the main awards though, we've got it.
yeah.
So, let's take a look at the NBA because their playoff picture is out, right?
Yes, maybe the most confusing thing ever. Because I thought like last year in the bubble when they were like, if if you're between like 2.5 games of the eighth seed team and you're the ninth seed, then yeah, there's a play in where if you're the eighth seed, you only have to win one game. If you're the ninth seed, you have to win two games. They've made it so much more complex by now making it like the 9 seed and the 10 seed just plays, and then from there, the 8, 9, and 9, 10, or 7, 8, and the 7, 10, and the 8, 9. If do I have this right? Because like
So basically, right, what
the 9,
happens is
10, and the 7, 8 play each other, and then the winner and loser of those, to some degree. See, this is how stupid this
no,
is. I
so
can't even get.
let's see. Okay, so first you have the 7 and 8 game for both the Western and Eastern Conference, right?
Mhm.
The winner moves on to be the seventh seed. The loser has to play another game in order to try and be the eighth seed. Okay, so then the 9-10 matchup, what happens is the winner of that gets to have to play another game to try and be the eighth seed against the loser of 7-8.
Understand why a team can't just be not good enough to make the playoffs.
Like Washington.
Right. I mean, I think it's just a maneuver by the NBA to keep their marketable personalities like Russell Westbrook,
Like,
as relevant as they can.
I really
Keep,
don't understand why Washington, Indiana is even like a playing game. Like, come on, guys.
I don't. It's not. It shouldn't be.
Like, at least on the Western side, they're both what? They both have a 500-ish record.
Well, it's also stupid because it makes teams that should be rebuilding like trade assets away to try to get help now, so that they can make a run at it from being the 10 seed and like try to climb all the way into the quarterfinals, and then they get swept by like the 2 seed.
Yeah.
But hey, they bought into right now because the window is as open as it could be. Really, the window should be closed, but this is how.
Yep.
Like Oklahoma City has like 30 draft picks in the next like 3 years
Mm-hmm.
or 3 to 5 years, whatever it may be. They're
Yep.
not on here because they obviously know what they are,
Yep.
but other teams now shuffle the deck a little bit more. Like Denver is the 4 seed in the West, and they went heavy on the trade deadline.
Yep.
The 4 seed maybe doesn't need to do that because the 4 seed, or actually, I guess the 4 seed does need to do that to try to become the top
Well,
2 seed. But
especially in this where you're either trying to become the top 2 seed or you were on the bubble like 7, 8, trying not to play the play-in tournament.
yeah,
So it kind of makes sense.
it kind of does. But at the
But
same time,
I
this
don't
is
know if I
like
would do it. I agree with your point of like I don't know that was the right move for the
I,
long term.
I guess if this was only happening this year, then I understand it because they are still playing somewhat of a reduced schedule
Uh-huh.
this year. So I get that like fans maybe get more of their money's worth out of it. But if they're not, then this needs to not happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean like, there is a snowball's chance that Washington plays Brooklyn as the 1v8 matchup in the actual playoffs.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But yeah. Don't hold your breath if you're a Washington fan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, anything else you want to say about the playoffs or the NBA?
No, I mean, the NBA is like the king of trying to shake things up to make it seem better than it is. They tried it with the dunk contest like 8 different times. They now have, 3 point contest wasn't good enough with just 3 point shooting. They had to put 4 and 5 point shooting in, I think. Uh, this is just the NBA trying to save eyeballs because God forbid something is plain. So
Yeah,
they,
like
they, they kind of dress it up a little bit.
I don't know about you, but I'll be hard pressed to watch a 9-10 matchup in the
No,
playoffs.
no, no.
Huh?
It's like the first four for March Madness.
Yeah.
It's like only people who are really into it for either gambling or for other, uh, you know, rooting interests, of
Yeah.
which the fraction of the audience is involved, are actually going to watch.
Yep. All right, on to the MLB. So the season just started, and I don't know. I think a lot of it is kind of some of the teams are in a weird spot. Like you have Houston at 500. The Yankees are technically under 500.
Yeah, but they're also the worst team in their division.
Yeah,
Or they were for a while.
they were the worst team in the division. Baltimore did help us out there. You
Yeah,
have
Baltimore started strong and then returned to where people thought they would be. So
you
I don't
have the
know. It
Mets
is what
being
it is.
500, being the top of their division.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who told me as a Mets fan, he was like, "Don't expect offense from us. We have a lot of great pitching,
Oh
but do
yeah,
not
but
expect offense."
DeGrom literally had to carry them through a perfect game
Yeah,
by scoring
I
his
mean,
own runs and pitching
because they
completely.
signed just because they signed Lindor for 10 years doesn't mean that they're actually going to be smart.
Yeah, I know, right? Um,
If they can just make it without more scandals coming out, I think they'll be fine.
hmm um, yeah, I don't know. Like aside from that, I think like aside from like the big names of like Houston being at 500, not where Oakland is,
Hmm.
and the Yankees being at the bottom of their division, like the rest of it's kind of shaping up. I don't know. I kind of expect the Dodgers to be at the top.
Yeah,
Milwaukee is one of those more top teams.
I think
Uh,
San Diego eventually will get there, but
yeah, I
I
mean,
didn't expect the Giants to be
mm,
right there. But
yeah, but it's also early. Like the NL East is kind of always this like crapshoot that's like everybody's bad but okay.
other than that, they're all really good and they just can't beat each other. I mean, to some degree, that's true. Like
Yeah, but the
the
opposite is also
Phillies for
true, you know?
the Phillies for some reason always have trouble with the Mets. The
Yeah.
Mets for some reason always have trouble with the Nationals. The Marlins always somehow beat the shit out of like the Braves or the Mets.
Yeah.
And then Atlanta's just kind of like, well, we have Acuna. And we'll do whatever we need
Yeah.
to make him happy.
And then the Central with Kansas City at the top is kind of expected.
I guess I didn't think that they turned it around as
But
quickly as they did.
at the
They
same
weren't
time, like,
they weren't that far from the gutter a
yeah.
couple of years ago.
Oh, I know, but like going into the season, like, I'm not really expecting much out of Detroit, Minnesota, or Cleveland. So,
Well, like, yeah, that's true, but I mean the White Sox haven't been able to capitalize on it to the fullest that they should be.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean Minnesota was there the past 2 years in the playoffs,
Yeah.
so I guess I kind of expected them, but their pitching I think just sucked.
Yeah. Any other team you want to highlight?
Nope, not really.
No? Yeah. I mean,
I
it's
mean, what you want me to jump on the fact that the Pirates, like, if they win today, are 500?
no, not really. Like, just wondering because it's kind of early in the season, you know.
I
Uh,
mean, if you're a Pirates fan, that's the only time that you really have.
yeah, like Oakland being
This
13
this
and
will
7
go
is slightly
downhill.
surprising,
This
but
will go downhill.
yeah. All right. Let's see. We have some NFL stuff to talk about. So,
I mean, if we're just going through some prospects here,
yeah.
not really going to do a huge draft thing, at least not right away.
Yeah, so you want to take it away with the top QB prospects?
Yeah, I mean, the first three, this is according to Pro Football Focus. They think that the top three prospects are Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields.
Mhm.
I think I don't know. Obviously, I've said before I'm not huge on Trevor Lawrence. I think that there's something to be desired in some areas. I think
Weren't
not
they?
look.
So,
Not,
from what I heard, like the top two were Wilson and Lawrence by a pretty big margin.
I just think that there's something to be said for a guy who was lucky enough to be on teams that win by 50 every game, and is he going to be able to handle when he's not, in those circumstances? Because as the number 1 overall pick, you're likely going to an environment where you're going to have to come from behind, and is he equipped to do that?
Who has the number 1 overall this year?
Jacksonville.
Are you sure? I don't like, because I've heard that San Francisco at 3 is going to be the one drafting a quarterback.
Yeah, but Lawrence is going to go number 1 most likely.
Okay.
Also, I think there's also been rumors that the front office for San Francisco says that they're giving Jimmy G at least 1 more year.
Oh, okay, because I've heard the other way, saying that they were looking to draft for the future.
I mean, maybe, but
Okay.
I don't know, because the NFL is weird because they just gave Jimmy G like a huge contract, and obviously there's voidable years on it because I'm pretty sure it was like a 10-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
So they obviously don't think enough of him long term.
Yeah.
So they either are going to take someone this year when they're at 3, or they're going to wait till
They
next year
traded
and
up for
try to-
3.
Yeah, but are they going to trade up from 3 to upgrade like the offensive line and see what they have in Garoppolo, or are they going to trade up from 3 to draft a quarterback and then it's more of a project?
Okay. I can see.
I mean, I'm not trying to say that their offensive line is bad, but you know, are they going to see if they can make things work around it or not?
Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, aside from that, we have an offensive tackle.
We have a lot of Alabama players. Let's just say what it is. There's like 6 Alabama players on this list of the top 20.
Yeah, I mean, 5 of them are pretty close together, right? You have 7,
Devonta
8.
Smith, Waddle, Barmore, Certain, Jones.
Yeah,
Okay,
those
so
5.
5.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
like they're all
20% of
pretty
the
high
list.
up.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe one day we will live in a world where Alabama doesn't get everybody.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Must be. I mean, let's look at it this way: SEC schools. We have Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase. That's 2. Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. That's 4. We have Barmore. That's 5. Certain 6.
Jones.
Mac Jones 7. Then we have South Carolina 8. So 8 of 20 on their top 20 in SEC schools.
All right, why don't we take a look at those wide receiver? So I noticed that in this list there were the 3 wide receivers at 6, 7, 8, right?
Yes. I
Uh,
mean, I think that it's natural. I mean, we saw that kind of last year too, with was it Judy Jefferson and
mhm.
some of those other guys. It wasn't necessarily at the top of the draft, though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
yeah, I think that sometimes drafts go a little bit too wide receiver heavy, but we also live in an era where running backs don't even make this list because they're seen as so interchangeable. Which I
Yeah.
don't understand how wide receivers aren't as interchangeable as running backs. Because you
Right.
put so many of them on the field that all you need is a solidified cornerback to
What I also
take
find
one out.
a little weird in a lot of like draft rankings is how polarizing like defensive players like rankings can be, because you can have like or even like the offensive tackle position.
Oh yeah, I mean
Like
look,
it's super polarizing. You can have like one guy who's like number 1 and they're like at the top 3, and then you can have the guy who's slightly worse than them, but he's all the way at like 15. And I'm like,
well look, these guys are necessary for filling holes on a team, but at the same time, they will never be as popular outside of the team that they play for in that fan base than
yeah,
they are on their draft in
right.
the
I'm
weeks
just
leading up
like
to it. Like
I'm just like looking at it, and it's like even if that's the case, right? You still have the few of them that sneak into the top 10.
Eric Fisher was the number 1 overall pick. He was a tackle, or is a tackle for the Chiefs. I don't know if he is anymore. Number 1 overall pick. I guarantee there's not a lot of people who remember he was a number 1 overall
Nope.
pick of the Chiefs because outside of that market, that's just not how offensive linemen get love anymore. They
Yep.
don't. They just after a while, it's what have you done for me lately? And in that market, yeah, Chiefs fans are going to care about that, but outside, no.
Yeah.
The draft, like you'll see how if we look at NFL commercials for the draft, they'll say number 1 overall pick Cam Newton or You know, Odell Beckham Jr. not number one overall, but like
Yeah,
these
top.
moments that they celebrate, they're not doing that for a defensive tackle or anything. Like
Yep.
maybe Aaron Donald because of like they were able to market him, but
Yeah.
outside of that,
Any player you want to look at on this list, or?
really, I think that Mac Jones is in a weird position because it's winning quarterback on a winning team, but we've seen a number of Alabama quarterbacks who didn't amount to.
But also, like, I feel it's weird because you have a lot of his teammates on this list, and if you're
Right.
putting their worth to that team as more than his, I still think like
Yeah, but like, was he throwing all deep balls, or was it actually the guys getting open?
right.
He had a star-studded lineup of linemen and stuff like that. There's also an argument to be made that who couldn't make the plays he made with the surroundings he had.
Yeah.
Not like average Joes, but like a fifth rounder on Alabama's lineup probably has the same success that Mac Jones has.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm kind of like looking at this list. I'm saying if you're putting the two wide receivers pretty high, I don't know if I'd necessarily agree with Mac Jones being put at 14, but like it is what it is, I guess.
I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I just don't know that
Not at all.
there's obviously when you look at the rankings, an upper echelon of quarterback.
Yeah,
Ranked
I
at one,
agree.
2, 3, and then if there's enough of a disparity between 1, 2, 3, and 14, there probably shouldn't be an argument that Mac Jones should be in the first round because there's
Yep.
enough of a drop off there.
Yeah. All
That's all I
right.
really have on that.
All right. Yeah. So we
Sun's shining in.
yeah, we kind of went through each of the major sports, seeing what's going on. So hopefully we'll have some more on. I guess the NHL looking towards playoffs soon, and whatever's happening in the
Yep.
NBA.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, and catch you next time.